Am I coming from the underworld? Is it a distant memory that I can't quite recall? It's just so dark in here. The noise feels insufferable. The shriek of 1,000 mice burnt on the edge of the sun. There is no light and I feel like I can't breathe. It's a trap I've fallen into. A dark room, unclosed. I can't escape. The only glimmer is blue and the world is ending. It's fate. We are doomed. It's what we see every day. The sheer horror, the madness. More disasters, more rampage, more riots, more wars. Less rights, less power, less hope. And yet, a past day, I went out, trying to muster the courage to look like something. I showered, I got dressed, went to a cafe, and on my computer made by children slaves or something, I tried to write. Not that it makes any sense, really, at all. It's the only thing I know how to do. Not that it helps. It's part of the problem, really. It forces me to think, to reflect, to analyze, when I would gladly not think, embrace the bliss of blameful ignorance. I do not think, therefore I do not am. Period. Nothing to see here. This isn't a mental breakdown. It's a normal day in a normal utopia of expecting nothing. The present is here in front of your very eyes. It's all you have at once, all you will get to experience in that very moment, and all you should do is live the hell out of it. But it's never that simple, is it? Maybe this is a mental breakdown. I'm not really sure anymore. I should ask the audience, shout, "Is this a mental breakdown?" and wait for the children to shout chaotically in return. But there is no one. I'm all alone and I'm just talking to myself. Not that that is a testament to my sanity, but I do have a story to tell. And if you thought things couldn't get any more fun, this is a suicide story. It feels almost romantic when you spell it like that, right? Like a tale, a parable, for something with a nice moral at the end. A lesson has been learned. The forces of evil have been vanquished. All obstacles have been overcome. And from now on, there is only happily ever after. Like time stopped. There is no more present, no more past, no more future. It's ever after. Nothing more, nothing less. Like an irrevocable constant. In some ways, this is my ever after. But I don't live here because it's never only one story. Just a thread of an intricate tapestry. A weave of confusing and contradictory narrative. A chaos you can't flee because it's you, your mind, your life, your stage. All-encompassing. No blank canvas, no start over or load an earlier save, no freedom. You're tied and you're in this for good. There's no point in trying to escape. This is life. It's real and it's slipping away. 1 second to the next, a second you will never get back. It's behind you forever. It's terrifying, really. It never stops. There is no way to hit the brake but to press the gear and wait to fall off the cliff, and then it's full stop. It's like you're never in control. You're in the passenger seat, scaling through ruins, people waving at you along the way. You slow down, you don't stop. Bombs are exploding. You hear a scream and then a million echoing. Look, on the left, a beautiful beach. And here, taking over the sky, her smile, what you remember it as. Over there, a political meeting. We lost. Again. I'm not even surprised anymore. Right ahead, a protest. The police shooting. Next, a couple enjoying brunch. Far in the distance, taking all the horizon, a black wall. There is nothing behind it. All you're doing is waiting for the impact, lethal, to all an end. Absurd, really. And yet, this is a suicide story. It's almost like you wanted to hit the wall, to decide when you hit it. Ultimate control. I'm God, sort of. Not that that's a real thing, most likely, even if it doesn't make much less sense than the rest, you could argue. Sometimes it just feels completely hopeless. There's nothing to expect. It's a journey, a ride at full speed, arguably bleaker and bleaker. One people everyone has been on before, and to what avail? What's the point if the impermanence is daunting, if it's inescapable? Money? Fame? Power? Is the ultimate goal to be the subject of a 13-year-old presentation in 50 years where everything is just copy-paste of Wikipedia? And then again, what's the point? Should we all drown in Soma? If happiness is all we could hope for, if happiness is just chemicals, was it really that wrong? Is trading eternal bliss for Shakespeare really worth it? It's just a story. We live in stories, as time is just a construct, in a desperate yearning to create continuity from random events, random selves superimposed, like reflections, ghosts of past times. It's a continually renewed virtuality, one we invent, we shape, because we can't bear staring at the light fading slowly away, like a candle at the heart of an ocean storm. Was it so wrong to try and alter the narrative, to make sense of it, like everything was leading to this moment? It's a suicide story, like an attempt to make sense. If you teatralize your struggles, it's almost like you shade a new light on them. To what degree is it a drama, if the stage feels as real as the distant blur of real life going past me? Do I only exist in my mind, the curtains falling as a mise-en-scène at the edge of the world? A dissonance, you ask? I mean, most likely, exist where? Within yourself and reality? Exist where, if life is an ongoing chaos? You never feel grounded or safe, under attack, under alert. I am the candle at the heart of the ocean storm, consumed, drowned by the wax, altered, deranged, alas, broken and crumbling. And that ultimate feeling, always at the back of my mind, sometimes forefront, that I need to escape, to fly away. I, in every way, so out of touch, just living in the realm of my memories, spectral, ghost, trapped, haunting the ruin of a sand castle built by a child. Ophelia, mortal, as in her eyes the tears of a video projector, on the edge of dementia, frozen. The keys are lost. I can't get out, and for the life of me, I can't remember where I left them. But all of this would not matter anymore, right? I could change my story to a tragic end, yes, but the narrative would always be different. It would make the headlines. People would talk about it. For a day at least, I wouldn't be lost and alone. I would be a hero. Maybe a collateral victim of capitalism, the martyr of a lost cause, the saviour of all whom within the world wander lost, a black angel. It feels selfish. It feels like a cry for help. Maybe it is one, but there is something so inherently powerful about the staging of your own suicide, so demiurgic, so cathartic, so hopeful, almost like throwing at life an ultimatum. What is it going to be now, life? Who is in control now? Are you going to stop me? It's that vertigo, that instant when all possibility unfolds, where everything uncloses. It feels so focused, like the camera zoomed in, like time stopped. Whatever happens after that is the beginning of an ever after. Even if you're ultimately stopped, something died. A perish, a peril, closure, somehow, if you will. Can art capture that? Is there anything that could be more powerful? It's that fantasy Wajdi Mohad captured in his book Alone. It got gifted to me when I was 12, signed as well, where he describes the impossible performance of an artist bringing a chair and a rope on stage and hanging himself, grasping for air as the rope wraps around his neck, the increased hysteria of the people, the terror, the silence, above all the vertigo, the edge of the world, the suspension. Will someone stop me? Will someone catch me? Will someone save me? It haunted me ever since. Is the wonder, the uncertainty, that feeling that at this point in time anything could happen, like a shift, that posture of vulnerability, like a desire to kill, fear. At the root of it, of my suicide story, the attempt, the yearning, the carnal need to murder fear, a bullet between the eyes. When you always felt afraid, fear becomes like a monster, a beast smothering you, devouring you. Their claws around your neck, the sound of their breathing like a whisper of doom, a hypervigilance, as an answer, a sour embrace. But in that moment, in that reality building around you, destroyed around you, all of it, all you experienced, feels blurry, almost like it belongs to a different reality, a daze. And everything slows down, diffracts, reflects, and all that's left is a stare in the distance and the throbbing of one's heart. What past, what future, but the first, the intensity, the urgency of the instant, and the question lingering, how does the story end? For as long as I can remember, I always loved the idea of performance, the act of it, like a perfectly curated fake reality, a mimesis that in every regard was real, but at the same time concurrently entirely virtual, like the skins and the breaths were cardboard, the emotions randomly attributed masks. But I never liked the theatre. It just felt so fake, so rehearsed, so scripted. It was the unavoidable certitude that you were there to watch something that was so blatantly a story, so coded, so written, that had almost no links with reality. It was faraway lands and realms, kings and queens, and complex moral dilemmas, stories that had a beginning, a middle, a climax, and an ending. It followed a frame to which the audience was entirely absent. Of course, that's classical theatre, but it's the space also, the enclosed room, the silence, the containment of the performance, to the stage, to the time, to the intangible frontier of the red curtains. The whole concept of the consented suspension of incredulity, like the tacit and shared understanding that none of it was actually real. Like if everything was pointless, insignificant, like it didn't exist. There is no confusion. The boundaries are perfectly clear, established. But for me, what I like is that confusion, that chaos, that suspension within the act of performance, where reality and virtuality collide, like a fantasy of ultimate disruption, obliterating that frontier. Showing up to my own personal apocalypse, a story where I was, alas, from all angles, the main character. It's what performance is, I guess. That gut-wrenching feeling that something is happening, that emptiness is inhabited by a form of chaos. It's pointless, you might say. Nothing ever really changes, but I like to think that when Marina Abramovic leaves herself at the mercy of human nature, she uncovers something, somehow, like a revelation in a transcendental way. It's sacred, it's suspended, like it makes sense. It shatters the mundanity of daily life. It's absurd, it's sordid, it's absolute. Is performance inherently politic? It's a protest, a cry for help, the scream of a broken voice in the night, enlightened by a fire hazard. Oh, it's burning all right, baby. In that way, it is a political act. The first time I got invested in politics was the 2017 French elections. All in all, a weird time where all that was established for years just shattered in front of everyone's eyes. There was no left, no right, as if all of it got washed away by the once and for all face of neoliberalism, like a wave perfectly curated by mass media that in months rose from the Dead Sea and took everything with her. Mostly the belief that anything could ever be any different. And we were left with an obnoxious military slogan and the think of spring. The far left, or what we call the far left, had lost again, not even close enough to make a difference. And everything was once again left hopeless. It's a game, a never-ending game that you can't choose to refuse to play, that you can maybe just hope to disrupt slightly. Over the years, that feeling of hopelessness grew stronger every time we lost, every time reality failed to live up to the ideal I cherished, my own utopia. It felt destructive, really, how hope is the only thing with the power to destroy you. If you don't hope, you don't care. Things just scale through you like water, 1 second to the next, leaving you unaltered. I strive and always have strived for that insensitivity, that strength of indifference, like a superpower. And yet, the daunting feeling that the breaking point is getting closer, like that ominous black wall set afar in the distance, somewhat more visible 1 second to the next. An impending doom lurking in the background. What happens if you look back, you ask, like 100 years back? Surely things are better. Society is never still. Progress as a driving force, a certainty of progress. But sometimes I wonder how real is that progress? Is it all just fake? Terrorism, mass shooting, police brutality, revoking laws, climate crisis, neoliberalism, propaganda. When I was younger, I lived in Paris, right near the Bastille, alongside the Arcs. From my room, I could hear the screams of the protests, the march, the speakers, and the slogan. I never heard the pain, the beating up of the people, never witnessed it firsthand. But the next day, I'd see it all over my phone, the very street I walked on every day, where I would laugh with the people I loved, as a theatre of mutilation, of carnage. And that dissonance at the very root of reality felt like it was crumbling. Safety was just temporary. And despite all of the protest and their violence, the law was still put into place, forcefully, without a vote from the assembly. It was all just for nothing. Like the Paris shooting, where people were slaughtered in the neighborhood I grew up in, a few hundred meters away from my house, where people I knew came close. And all I was left with was fear and instability, like everything could fall apart at any second if someone decided to press the trigger. A Gen Z born to see 9/11 and an ever-ending streak of wars. Someone who hoped they could change the world and realized in every way they were doomed. Or maybe I'm just a pessimist, a cynical and depressed person that cares too much, that expects too much, just oversensitive. What is this video even, apart from a desperate yearning to make everything make sense? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense. This narrative is flawed, nonsensical, and if anything, feels like the overanalysis of a cry for help. And I am an unreliable narrator. It's not even my story, really. I'm French. I could have chosen anyone, really. Politics is an ongoing disappointment. Mitterrand, Pasqua, Sarkozy, Chirac. It would have been kind of anticlimactic to do it at the Museum du Quai Branly, though. Comical almost. Maybe it hits closest from home, too close. Out of reach. Maybe it's easier to disappear in someone else's story. A story, like a parable, a metaphor, to leave even for 1 second the tale of a hero, a martyr, and the saviour, once and for all and all for once. A suicide story like the sacrificial decorum, the make-believe of salvation. It takes you to a breaking point. This is the climax, ladies and gentlemen. Get ready, this is where the story finally unfolds, the final piece of the puzzle. In every way possible, this is the end. And now, under the decaying light, the evanescence and the mundanity of my sadness felt transfigurated, my life devoted to the performance. And, in the same way that prophets see their lives rewritten by sacred texts, under the certainty of their grand destiny, I felt like the eternal grey sky of London shed on my bewilderment a new light. My life as a chiaroscuro, from childhood a continuous line, the seal of a curse, a destiny of solitude, as lethal, absurd, really. Why did I choose Margaret Thatcher, you ask? She was the Prime Minister long before I was even born. I guess she, in many ways, is an allegory, a representation of conservatives, of right wing, of neoliberalism, of unashamed capitalism. One of its most recognizable faces, with Reagan, maybe, the face of an ideology that essentially said, "You're on your own, kid, and the world is out to get you. There is no alternative, no hope." And yet, here we are. I stopped running from myself, from the world. I'm looking at it, dead in the eyes. This is my suicide story. I can change things, disrupt the narrative, rewrite my story, to all an end, really. It's a cold winter day. I took the train from London to Grantham, and now I am facing her, the statue of her on St. Peter's Hill. I am staring at her. I feel nothing. The climax is uneventful. Who would have guessed? I'm standing there, still. I have the rope in my bag. I watched a tutorial on YouTube to know how to tie it. All I have to do now is to take action. Turn the camera off. Lifetime stopped. It's just so dark in here. No one will save me. This is the end. Oh, you're still here. You survived the collision of reality and virtuality. Was it all fake, you ask? You saw the news though, right? It's as real as you want it to believe. It's not that hard to create fake news. And who are you to decide art is just fiction? It's so much more than that. Did it really happen? Am I dead, talking to you from beyond the grave? Was everything part of the performance? Life as an ever-ending performance, a game of fools played on repeat. How hard is it, really, to tell a compelling story? So, all of it was a lie. Nothing changed. Did you ever feel like anything could change? Like one person could disrupt the force-fed narrative? Wait, you're crying? You're scared? You believed me? Oh, how hopeful of you. Oh, baby, rest assured. It's not like anyone could change, do anything. Nothing ever really changes.